Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. This is going to be our first virtual class for you guys. We're going to be doing a succulent garden workshop for you today. I'm Craig. I work in the plant department here at In Bloom Florist. And today we're going to kind of walk you through our DIY succulent garden kit. We actually have this online currently for you guys to purchase. And we're gonna walk through, I'm gonna show you everything that it comes with it, and then how to create your own succulent garden. For all of you that are watching, this is a pre-recorded workshop. That just means that we're not live streaming. However, if you have any questions while we're doing this, we will have somebody that will be available to answer your questions and go over any things that you wanna talk about while you're viewing this video. So, let me walk you through what we got. First and foremost, you're gonna have instructions. You can absolutely follow all the instructions which will be included in your DIY kit. In your kit, you're gonna find that we have a whole bunch of different items for you. So you get to have a lot of fun and get really creative and basically make this your own. So you're gonna have one, will be your container. Get a nice little 6-inch concrete a square here for you. It comes with a liner. However, this concrete square is actually sealed, so you do not need to use it. However, feel free to if you would like to. You're gonna have a variety of different succulents that come with the kit as well. You're gonna have 3 of the 3-inch succulents. They will all be different. And then you will also have 2 of the 4-inch succulents. If you have additional succulents at home that you wanna add to it, or again, make this your own, do whatever you would like. You're gonna find a couple different bags in here of a couple different items. So each one has its own specific use. You're gonna find a bag full of rocks. These are actually rocks that we use for drainage. These will be going in the bottom of the container. If you don't want to use all of them and you want to save a few for decorative items, you absolutely can, but that's what this bag is specifically for. You're gonna find you have 2 bags of dirt, soil for you that we will be using in the kit. You'll find 1 bag of preserved moss. This is going to be used for a decorative filler on the top of the succulent garden when we are finished planting everything. And then you're going to find 1 little bag full of a couple different kinds of rocks. There'll be a variety of different finishing stones. And then also you'll have some preserved green Spanish moss. And then you'll also have 2 crystal agates. These are just a couple of different little decorative items that you can use to jazz up your succulent garden as you go when you finish. And again, make this your own. If you have things at home that you want to add, do it. Add whatever you like. All right. So those are all the items that you're going to have with your kit. Now I'm gonna kind of walk you through, we're gonna build this succulent garden. Again, I'm gonna build it the way I would build it, make it your own, build it however you like. So we'll kind of walk through each step and I'll talk to you about a couple of different techniques you can use and a couple of ideas and tricks as you go along, and we'll get started. The first thing I like to do before I start building my succulent garden is kind of get an idea of what I want it to look like. Every succulent garden you build is going to be different. A lot of times it depends on the shape of your actual succulents. So I like to kind of build mine. I'm missing one here. There he is. Kind of like to get an idea of the shape of the container and then kind of get scale. And color variation. Succulents come in a lot of different colors. They range anywhere from a blue-green to a deep green to some are purple. Some are more fluorescent colors. Some have different colored edges, different shaped leaves, so on and so forth. Some are very tall, some are very short. rosette styles. So the best idea is whatever kind of succulents you have, kind of put them together and kind of just figure out what is going to be the best look for you. You do not have to plant these in a grid style pattern. You can put some off to the side. You can put them in clumps or clusters. It's whatever you want. So I think for me, I'm gonna probably put them somewhere in that kind of pattern. So I can get a variation of color. I have my blue greens on opposite ends. I have my more lighter greens on opposite ends, and I have my deep green right in the center. And I'll just kind of build from there. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is decide if you're gonna use the inner liner or not. Personally, I don't like to use the inner liner, so I'm not going to use it for this demonstration. With these containers, depending on the container that you have, containers either have drainage or they do not, built into the actual container. And by that, I mean this container is actually solid at the bottom, so it has no built-in drainage. One of the things that is good about that is the fact that when you water it, water will not run out and get on whatever surface the container is sitting on. On the flip side of that, a con is that when you do water it, water does not drain out of the container. So you have to be a lot more aware of how much water you are putting on your plants because the water is actually going to sit. So to counter that, in these type of containers, we like to add a drainage layer. So we use this bag right here. This is all of your drainage rocks. It's just a whole bunch of different kind of river rock. Like to add a little bit of a layer at the bottom. So just pour it in. I'm gonna use all of them. You don't have to. You can, if you wanna, sometimes with river rocks, some of them can be really pretty. So if you wanted to save some of them and use them as decorative items later on, absolutely, go for it. If not, throw them all in there. I'm gonna throw them all in there. What that does is it creates a nice little layer on the very bottom. So now when we put our dirt on top, when we water everything, that water has a place to go and it will sit at the bottom, not be a part of the dirt, and it won't cause root rot. So succulents, they like water, they store water in their leaves, but you can't overwater them because they will rot. So you have to be very cautious about that. So we're going to move on from that step. We're gonna start with soil. Now, a trick that I would tell you before you start dumping all this soil in here is that the succulents already have soil around them. So depending on what succulents you have, you may not need to add as much dirt as you think. So before we actually get started with planting these, let me give you a few tips on how to handle the succulents. Succulents are very fragile. The leaves can break off very easily if you don't handle them correctly. You've got to be very gentle with them. So one of the things that I kind of do is if you loosely just kind of tip them over, you want to squeeze the actual container to loosen up the grip, and you just let it fall out naturally. Don't try to pull the succulent out of the container. You wanna just do it like that. What that does is it doesn't put any of the pressure or stress on the actual succulent leaves themselves, so you're probably gonna have a lot less breakage. So, get that nice in the corner. Now, with some of these succulents, such as this one, this is a single succulent. When you have succulents big like these are actually all individuals. So you want to be careful not to break up the roots too much, because basically what will happen is all three will completely separate, and then you're going to have to deal with three different ones, which actually you can do if you want to separate them and put that into your design. You can absolutely do that. For this purpose, though, we're gonna actually just keep them together. All right, let's do this one as well. So again, just be very gentle. Squeeze the actual container. Let it come off of the succulent. Don't pull the succulent. Put it in there, just like that. Now see, this is what I meant by don't just dump all your dirt into the container. There was so much soil in these containers already that I don't actually need a lot of this soil to begin with. I am gonna put a little bit in now. And we're gonna kind of push it up into the sides just to kind of hold everything nice and tight. Now, a little trick is a pen. So my hands are a little too big to kind of get into some of these smaller areas. What you can do is just grab a pen or any utensil or any kind of little tool you have, and you can use that to push dirt into some of the small little areas that aren't filled yet. So like these back corners. You want to do it on all sides. Really get those in there. Okay. You may notice that some of them might flop down a little bit. That's okay. Don't worry about that. I'll show you a couple tricks using some of the other items in the kit that can kind of help get away from that. So it really depends on how you want to do it. I always kind of start from one side and work my way to the other. Some people like to start in the middle and then kind of branch out. Doesn't matter to me. It just depends on what makes you more comfortable. Again, especially with these rosette style succulents, be very cautious with them. Pull the container off of the succulent. Don't pull the container out. The succulent out of the container. Before you put it in there completely, just if you find any dead leaves, just pull those off because they're not very pretty. Okay. Okay. All right. I think we got that guy in there pretty good. You need to fill in a couple of different areas that are a little bit bigger. You can pour them back into the little pot that the succulent came out of and use that as a little kind of shovel, sort of. And then you can use your pen to kind of push that down into any of those voids that you have. There you go. All right. If you filled in a little too much soil, you can just use 2 fingers, create like a little hole right there. Be careful not to go down too far because just remember you have your layer of drainage rocks at the bottom. So you don't really want to mix all the soil in with the drainage rocks. Okay. Okay, that one came out really easy. Okay. Get it in there. Okay. Now you can do another little area here. If the dirt is piled up on the edges like that, I kind of like to knock some of that off so that the succulent sits on top of the soil, not in it. All right. Get a little bit more. fill in all those little holes. Now's the time where you can actually go through and just make sure you get all the little voids filled with soil so that everything is nice and firmly planted. If you have any areas in the center where you can't reach, again, use your pen or whatever tool that you found and just kind of pat down some of that soil to make sure everything has. Oh, looks like I missed here we go. Get that guy out of there. All right. So we're done with planting. Pretty simple. Now comes the fun part, my favorite part. It's all fun, but this is my favorite part. We get to decorate. So one thing you will see is you actually have a lot of extra soil. So the good part about that is you have more soil to use on another succulent garden. So we're gonna put all that to the side for the moment. One of the things that I do at home, just a little tip, is I'll sit actually in my kitchen and design succulent gardens. And instead of, I have craft paper down now, but you can just throw a towel down. And it just kind of confines the mess. And if you have, kids or anyone that wants to do it, everyone can kind of gather around and just have fun. And you don't have to worry about dirt getting everywhere, which I usually get dirt everywhere. But, all right, so now we're gonna do the fun decorative stuff. Get rid of this. This is preserved sheet moss. If you have ever seen this stuff actually growing, it doesn't grow here in Florida, really, but it does grow up in the Carolinas and pretty much a lot of northern forest. It's beautiful when it's growing. And this stuff will actually grow. If you put water on it and it stays moist, the ferns actually kind of come back to life, kind of like very similar to a resurrection fern, and they will actually grow. It is a little difficult to do it here in Florida, simply because it is not cool enough and they dry out really quickly. But this is preserved moss, so it will actually stay nice and pretty and green. It does make a bit of a mess, but you can cut it off in pieces, you can scrunch it up, you can shove it in the little void areas in between succulents, anything you want. So I'm gonna just take off a couple pieces here. With some of these larger ones, they sometimes have a tendency to flop down. What you can do is, with the sheet moss, you can actually use them to help prop up some of your succulents. So you can kind of put them underneath here. Just remember to be very cautious because the succulents, like I said before, they're fragile. So you don't want to start breaking off leaves at this point, because that would be kind of sad. So you can just kind of push it in there and see how that automatically already propped up this one. So I'm actually going to do the same on the back here, just to kind of keep these, because they're tall. I want to keep them nice and firmly planted in there and supported. So now you can see all I'm doing is shoving all this sheet moss right in here. And you just have to tuck it into the corners. Now, if you get them, you don't have to put this all the way around, and you don't have to cover everything. You can just do it in a few areas if you like. Again, this is you decorating, so you can do whatever you want. There are no rules when it comes to this. Just have some fun with it. Put a few little areas. I think I'm gonna do it all the way around the back. Let's see. So I think for mine, I'm kind of doing mine one-sided. So I would probably put this against a wall or something so that you're viewing this as the front. So with that said, I'm going to kind kind of put all this on the back. Now, some of these little areas, the voids in the center here, because I don't want to stick my fingers in there and risk breaking off some of the leaves, what I can do is I can take and I can rip the sheet moss into small little segments, kind of drop it in there, break out your pen, and you can kind of maneuver that sheet moss into the area that you want. Now, one of the good things about sheet moss is the fact that because you're using this on it, it will actually hold some of the moisture in. One thing to be aware though, is it does hold moisture in. So it means that you're not gonna have to water these nearly as much as you would without it. The water is not gonna evaporate as much. So we're gonna put a couple more in here. Okay. All right, we're gonna I think we're gonna move away from sheet moss. Oh, maybe I'll put a little bit more in this little corner. We're gonna support this guy. Okay. All right, so now I'm gonna put my sheet moss aside. Put that, save that. You have a decent amount of sheet moss here as well. So again, you could put this to the side and save it and use this for another succulent garden. All right, let's show you some of the things that we have here. All right, so this is kind of your little finishing touches. We have a couple different things. You have a couple different agates. There's a bunch of different colors that we have. Each kit will probably be different. But there'll be two varieties of color. You have a little bit of green Spanish moss preserved. This stuff is great because it has a wonderful pop of color. You have a couple different kinds of rocks. Let's see, in this one, I have some red lava rock, and then I have some black river rock. The lava rock can be a little dusty. Little trick with the black river rocks is just get them wet. Just throw them in like the sink or something and just wash them off real quick. So now we can kind of take and decide what we want to use. So maybe we take a little bit of the Spanish moss. This stuff goes a long way, just so you know. It'll come when you actually get it, it's pretty clumped up like this. But with Spanish moss, all you gotta do is take a little bit and just kind of spread it out. And that one little bit will puff up a lot. So it goes a little bit, goes a long way. So I think we will probably, I'm gonna put some, where's my pen? There we go. I'll put a little bit in here. Okay. Just give it a little fun color in there. We're gonna do some, I want to do some lava rocks up in this little area right here. Actually, maybe we'll do a couple different rocks. Okay. And from there, you can actually do a couple different things. I think we might add a little piece of sheet moss right in here. Little bits. Add another little piece of lava rock right there. Maybe across the front there too. A couple smaller black rocks. You can even take and put some of the black rocks on the corners over here. One good thing about the Black River rocks and, well, any of the rocks really is, again, just like we did with the sheet moss at the back, you can use these rocks to support some of the taller succulents that have a tendency to tip over sometimes when you're initially planting them. They will become a lot stronger as the roots take hold and they all kind of marry together, but you can use these temporarily as little supports. Okay, I might add a little river rock back here too. So I don't have actually one here right now, but I don't really need one. But sometimes when you're actually planting the rosettes and the succulents, the dirt will get in between and in the middle of them. A little trick is take a straw and you can use that straw to blow out the little tiny areas where the dirt gets in. It's amazingly handy to do that. And all your succulents will look super clean. I think now I'm gonna just do that little. I got all my little areas here. And then you have your agates. These, again, do whatever you want with them. Put them wherever you feel like it. And I think I'm gonna add one right there. And I think I'm gonna add one right there. So, there's your succulent garden. And again, you have lots of little extra pieces here, so you can do whatever you would like with them. Now, the one thing I would suggest after you're done doing this is water it. So how do you water it? Do you grab a cup of water and dump water on it? No, please don't do that. The best thing to do with succulents is to have a spray bottle. They don't like to have a ton of water put on them. What will happen is, especially in particular, the rosette style succulents, if you pour water directly on top of them, water will have a tendency to sit in the middle and they will actually rot from the center. The best thing to do with succulents is to spray the base areas of them. So you're basically spraying the soil. You're not actually spraying the succulent itself. You're just spraying around the soil. The amount of water that a succulent will take kind of depends on where it is. I have a friend who has her succulent garden on a table next to the pool outside, and she very rarely ever waters it. I have another friend who has a succulent garden and it's inside on a coffee table and has to water it quite a bit. What are the differences? For one, anything that's going to be outside, particularly here in Florida, we have a lot of humidity, as you all know. And we also have a lot of dew and fog and so on. There's a lot of moisture in the air. The succulents are going to absorb that moisture directly from the air. So you don't have to water them quite as much. On the flip side of that, if you have them indoors, we all have the air conditioning on because it's Florida and it's hot. Air conditioning naturally pulls the humidity out of the air. So succulents have a tendency to dry up quicker inside than they do outside. Now, you ask, do they need do I put them in sun? Do I put them in shade? They kind of like in between. They like a little bit of sun. They like a little bit of shade, a little bit of indirect. They don't want to be sitting in the middle of the hardcore Florida sun all day long because they will use up all of their moisture and they'll dry up. They also don't like to sit in total shade. They kind of like that indirect light. So the best of both worlds. One example of a mister that you can use for your succulents is this. They come in a variety of different styles, colors, sizes. I mean, you can get them everywhere. We have a few different ones here. We have this gold one, and then we also have a clear, traditional trigger spray bottle. I like the gold one because it's a little fancy. But as an example, you literally just spray around the base. This also, when you're doing this initially, right after you build the succulent garden, this can kind of help clear off any of the dust from, there's a gnat in here. Any dust from the dirt. Turn it around so you can see it. Now notice I'm not doing it directly on top. If you did get them dusty and you want to do a little bit, of spraying on just to get some of the dust parts off or any dirt, you can. Just kind of don't let the water sit in there. You might want to kind of dump a little bit of it out just to make sure that they don't rot. And now you probably only have to do this, like I said, it's going to really depend on where you have it. But you probably indoors, maybe once a week, just grab a little spray bottle and kind of mist them. This is very similar if any of you out there have orchids at home. It's kind of very much the same concept. They don't need a ton of water. They just need a little bit of misting here and there. And that's actually, I think that's about it. This is your end result. Cute little succulent garden. I don't know if yours looks exactly like mine. Hopefully you made it your own and you had a little bit of fun with it. You can apply all of these tricks and techniques to every succulent garden you have. Again, you can get this DIY kit on our website. If you want something different, you can also come into our store. We have all kinds of containers and different types of succulent gardens. We go from this size to giant to everything in between. Different styles, different colors, shapes, everything. So by all means, come on in or give us a call and we can answer any questions. If you would like us to email you the video, we can do so as well. Please reach out to us with questions or comments. There will be somebody that will be able to answer anything that you need while we're streaming this. And thank you for joining me. And I hope you had a good time. And stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have a lot more coming to you with a whole bunch of different designs and techniques and skills and floral and who knows what's in the future. So thank you.